Podcast is brought to you by Dr. James McIntyre and his team at Adjust Your Health in North Calgary. When I met Dr. James almost 20 years ago, I was taking 10 to 12 Advil every day just to get through my workday, not to mention the stuff I was doing at night like alcohol and other substances. I suffered from chronic pain due to car accidents, sports injury, and repetitive motion damage from being a drywaller. I had worked in the trades for nearly 20 years and had more than 10 car accidents, 3 very serious ones. I had some severe sports-related injuries. Most of my cryo I saw would only give me temporary relief from day-to-day pain. It was getting expensive and depressing to see the other doctors knowing that I would be right back into the same boat the next morning. I was lucky that the last chiropractor I saw said that she could not help me anymore and directed me to Dr. James McIntyre. After only a few visits, I felt tremendously better. Most of my pain had left, my mobility was coming back, and I didn't need as much Advil. If I remember right, it was only a few months and I was almost completely off the pills and life was getting better. I have known Dr. James and his crew for almost 18 years and have referred almost everyone I know to him, and they have become Adjust Your Health advocates. The team at Adjust Your Health offers a wide array of services including acupuncture, massage therapy, chiropractic, and physiotherapy. They believe in a multidisciplinary approach to patients' care and use a variety of techniques to help their patients achieve their goals of pain relief or injury resolution to improve sports performance. Calgary is privileged to have such a highly qualified team of practitioners available to accommodate your health and well-being needs. If you are in pain or an athlete or just want to be as healthy as possible, check them out at www.ayhcalgary.com. Our next sponsor is Paul Nye from Nye's Touch and Nye's Tats. There's some debate over who invented the first motorbike. Several men claim to have the first design or patent. Regardless who it was, my guess is that the very next year some dude started customizing his newly invented contraption. Throughout history, men and women have been altering their transportation to move faster, turn sharper, or turn ahead or two. If you are customizing your ride to be low and slow, shiny and fast, loud and obnoxious, you have not completed the project until you have your custom paint job done. Paul Nye at Nye's Touch is your guy for custom paint on bikes, boats, cars, buses, or anything else you ride. You want a bike that looks like no one else? Nye's Touch. You want to honor a fallen friend with the hood of your car? Nye's Touch. You want a mural of your favorite girl on the side of a bus? You guessed it, Nye's Touch. Paul has been airbrushing for more than 15 years and his work will take your breath away. Check out his work on Instagram at Dripping Chrome or on Facebook at Nye's Touch, or call him at 587-435-4602 for your free estimate. Don't forget, Paul will be in a tattoo studio near me soon. And now, on with the show.
I want to
No.
Podcast
With
Chad Ferguson.
Hey everybody, this is Chad from the I Want to Know podcast, a kick-ass podcast. I'm here today with my newly favorite artist, Serena Love, from Shewolf Studios in Grand Prairie. I highly suggest you guys all check out the art. How's it going?
Really well.
Yeah, how was your drive down from Grand Prairie?
You know what? The roads were clean.
Nice.
I couldn't have asked for anything better.
Very, very cool.
Yes.
And so what's the purpose of being down in the area? We're lucky to have you here, I think.
Yeah, well, thank you. I really lucked out that I was introduced to you, so I got to do this podcast. I just finished doing a kick-ass photo shoot. So my personality is running about 34% right now. But yeah, it was a great experience. And then tonight we're gonna go see a comedy show.
Momerica.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm excited. I actually just watched his special, Netflix special this morning. He's very, very
So
funny. So I'm
good.
pumped. I'm hoping there's some new stuff in there, but I would watch that show all over again. Live.
Right?
Yeah, it was
Right?
amazing. So how did we get introduced? Who was the in-between person?
Jamie.
Jamie Pruden.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, and I met him at an art battle in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's an art battle?
An art battle is kind of like a rap battle, only the artists set up and they paint. They have 20 minutes to paint. They get voted into the finals, and
Very
then
cool.
yeah, it's very cool.
It's like speed painting.
It is.
How is that stressful?
It can be.
Yeah.
So the first time I had no planning. I drove down to Edmonton. I had about an hour to eat to get to the place, and I killed it.
Nice.
Like, yes, it was awesome. It felt really good. The second time, holy shit, I bombed.
Yeah.
I bombed so hard. I couldn't even. It was the first time. Actually, it was the first time in my whole art career. Where I had that moment where I was just like, I can't turn this around. Like, I could just walk away from being on the spotlight right now because it's not going the way I want it to.
That is what always impresses me with artists. So whether you're a martial artist, whether you're a comic or a painter or a sculptor, a writer, a poet, is that you guys do things and then just put it out there and it's under full judgment all the time. Like that's what it is, right? Do I like it? Do I dislike it?
Yes.
Whatever. And you guys have to have the thickest skin, the most courage of anybody I know.
Yeah, well, I don't know any other way of living.
Yeah.
Like it has to happen. For me, I have to create. I have to have whatever it is out, whether it's writing or painting or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It has to come out, and ultimately, I don't give a shit what other people think.
That's good because some artists do, and it's what stifles them, I think.
Absolutely,
Right,
absolutely. There's been so many moments in my career where I'm very much a yes person, where I say yes to life, and then I figure it out from there.
Yeah.
And there's been many moments where I've thought to myself, like, this is where other people drop off.
Yeah.
Because it sucks. Like, ultimately, when you do have judgment coming at you all the time and there's opinions and it starts getting more public, it is tricky. And as much as I like to actually say, I don't give a shit, of course, I'm a human and I have feelings.
Yeah.
But in the end, it'll never stop me from pushing my own personal boundaries. And
so where does that come from? How did you grow up so that you have this tough skin, such a desire for art?
Oh, so where does one begin?
Yeah, I know.
Like, it's really bred into me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your home life like? Were your parents artists? Did they just encourage you?
You know what? My birth mother was is a beautiful artist. She introduced me to the figure drawing classes. She was always the one. I'd come home and she would just have sketches on everything. Like, that was her outlet. And she would play guitar and just sing so beautifully. So she had all these creative outlets that I grew up with. Yeah. So she was definitely one of my biggest
Contributors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're growing up, and so she's just having you drawing every day and writing and singing, and like it's just a very creative house to be in.
Yeah, it was. My family seems to be very creative. Like, my brothers can pick up any instrument and play, and my sisters are very artistic, like drawing and painting and crafty, and it blows me away.
Did they all take jobs in that realm?
No. Well, actually, my sister right now is traveling, and she's starting to get by doing art.
Nice.
which is amazing. I'm very proud of her.
It's great to be in a culture where artists can survive as artists, because it's not everywhere in the world where they can, right? And in poorer
Yes.
communities and poorer countries, then no one's buying art. No one cares if you do art. They're just worried
Yes.
about getting fed or housed or being safe.
Yes.
So we live in this amazing country where artists can be artists, and I think the creativity that comes out of like Canada, the U.S., Europe, Australia, the major powers, it's amazing. And then we're getting more and more as we get more. What's the right word? Civilized. We get a lot more artistic.
Yes. I'm grateful every day.
Yeah.
I'm grateful every day for the artist that I get to be and the support that I've been given, and also being a woman
Yeah.
in Canada. Like,
What's your culture? What's your background? Your heritage, I should say.
I am blood tribe, so I'm Native and Scottish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you done the Ancestry.ca?
No. You know what? That kind of shit doesn't really, I don't know. It's not really my thing
I
to tap into
loved
that.
it. The only thing that was scary about it was the fact that they ask you how much information they can share and how much you want to know. So I just wanted to know my heritage.
Yeah.
But they'll literally tell you what disease you're susceptible, what you'll most likely die from, and they can pass that information on to your insurance company. And that was super, super scary.
See, like, I think that's weird. That's too much information. I just want to live my life.
Yeah.
Just how I am. I'll figure it
Awesome.
out as I go.
So is this all you've ever done is art? Like you've made a living in it from beginning?
No. I've always been a server, just a waitress.
Nice. It's
Yeah.
not just a waitress. It's a good.
I-
It's a noble trade.
Oh, you know what? It really got me by. It
Yeah.
got me by in life because ultimately later in life I learned that I'm not actually an outgoing human being. I'm quite the introvert, and I have to give a lot of thanks to being a waitress for making me go out
Right.
and be able to have that small talk and yeah.
Are you more introverted with large groups of people, or is it the one?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. It's
yeah. I
harder with large.
can't fucking stand crowds.
Yeah.
They're the worst. Yeah.
I just had a conversation with a friend. I went out for lunch with him, and he was talking about he does skip the dishes now, and
yeah.
just as a secondary job. He has a real job, but he's like, oh, when my kids are off doing stuff, then I'll just go do skip the dishes. Makes pretty good money. And he's like, but I don't want to tell anybody that I do that. I'm like, why? What's the big deal?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, it's a crappy job, and I'm like, you make $40 an hour, and most of it is cash. It's a pretty good
Exactly.
job.
Well, and here's the thing. Like I've had so many people try shitting on me for the job when I was in it, and some guy straight up looked at me that I was serving, and he was just like, "This is stupid. Like, why are you even here?" He's like, "You're so pretty. You could do something else. You could be a model." And I was like, "Fuck, dude."
What
Are
an
you-
egotistical way to give a
Oh,
shitty
man.
compliment, right?
Oh, it was just the worst.
Yeah.
It was the worst. And I was like, guaranteed, when put all this aside,
Yeah.
I walk away with more.
Yeah, yeah.
And I work for less.
My sister is a single mom of 4, and she raised her family off of a waitress's
Yes.
wage and did really, really good.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't knock other trades. I started as a drywaller, so you want to know a trade that gets bashed on a little.
Right.
How many drywallers do you know that are like super nice guys?
Right.
So yeah, I come from a trade. But honestly, you know what? Drywall bought me this house and got me my wife and my kids and all that stuff. So I can't knock it.
Everything has a place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We need them all.
Absolutely.
So you didn't do any traditional schooling for your art then?
I haven't. No, I guess naturally I just like to explore. So I was always told when I first started getting into this that I need to seek out my own style, that I need to there's so many rules, and I was like, no. That's not really how I go about life. Like, I just do my own thing, and you just do so much more when you explore.
Right.
Like when you I find like schooling is great.
I had
You know, it has its place.
yeah.
It definitely has its place, but it also has its place to crush an artist.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I had Paul Nye on, the guy that does my tattoos, and he did the same as you. He just explored and got his own way. And he says what was interesting about it was that it took him 10 years to learn some of the techniques that he's got and what he does. But we're in school, he'll have some kid come out, and that kid knows everything about color blending or digital or whatever. And he goes, that's great, but there's something about the pain that gives the artist the creativity, like the pain of learning, the time it takes, and the failures and all that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, cuz it's our own personal journey and that's what we're putting out there. So like in school, I was the worst student. I was the worst. I think I got voted for being the one to stare out the window the longest. Like I was the daydreamer. I was always doodling, like throwing paper airplanes. Like I just didn't give a shit about school.
Right.
So for me to find art as a passion and lock myself into a course, it just didn't feel natural.
Be way too painful.
Yeah.
How are your kids in school?
They're very intelligent. Like my daughter, bless her heart, I have to go down late in the night and tell her to put her book away. Like she loves to read, she loves to study. She's the one that's gonna be like the valedictorian, like
Yeah.
you know, everything that I'm not. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And my son picks it up really well as well. And I'm really grateful that my ex-husband helps out with their schooling.
It's not your forte.
It's not. It really isn't. I was thinking when I have kids, like I'm gonna be all like on top of their school. I'm gonna make sure they're educated and this, and I'm gonna really care. Well, kindergarten hit, and I was just like, sweet, like you do your thing, and yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I was reading through your website and your social media today and just trying to get a feel because we haven't actually physically met before today. So trying to figure out what I want to know about you. And one of the things that said on your website was that you're trying to express love in all of your paintings. And I'm not sure if that's what they make me feel right now looking at them, but I'm madly in love with like a dozen of your portraits. I think I've messaged you a bunch of times on Instagram, like, I love this one, I love it, and I really truly do. They're amazing. So is that your whole goal when you're doing it, is just to try and make people feel love, or is there?
No, and I don't mean like the cheesy Valentine's February 14th kind of love.
Yeah.
Like no one wants shitty chocolate, right? But I mean, there's darkness. There's so much darkness to life. Mm-hmm. And it's just shedding light on that.
Yeah.
It's for me, showcasing love happens in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. And I don't want someone to look at that and be like, "Oh, I need to find a partner," like that kind of thing.
Right.
It's just being human.
Yeah. It's
just experiencing being human.
Right.
And that to me is love. Yeah. It's to me, this whole process of becoming an artist and becoming more public has been so cringeworthy. Like, I've had so many moments where I'm just like, holy fuck, like, get me out of here.
That's one of the battles with artists, though, right? Is that to create is what you're designed to do, but you also have to be somewhat business-minded. You also have to put a number on things and sell regularly to pay your rent and your mortgage and your car payment and stuff. And how much does that stuff stifle you? Like, is it taking away now that you're as public as you are?
I'm learning a lot. I'll say that. Yeah. I've definitely had some hard lessons, but I'm learning a lot, and even though I've had some fresh battles of opening up my studio and stuff, of learning the business side of it, because it's very much not my personality. So it's just learning a whole other craft, which
Yeah.
is okay.
Yeah.
I also learned that I can be empowered by it, and that I will also be a kick-ass businesswoman.
Yeah.
So all of it is,
One of my favorite podcasts is the Joe Rogan podcast, and he's very inspirational to me. And one of the things he talks about is when you become excellent at something, no matter what that is, then you know you can be excellent.
Yes.
And so when you're an excellent artist, it means you can also be an excellent business person and an excellent mom and an
Yes.
excellent partner and an excellent in everything, right? You just have to direct your desire towards those things.
well, and it's just finding that confidence. It really, what I've found is keep pushing those boundaries.
Yeah.
Keep striving for that personal growth. And you get to a point where challenges get smaller and smaller, because as it doesn't mean that they stop coming at you or that they do get smaller, but your mentality is like, what else you got?
Yeah.
Like, I will jump over that, and I will jump over that,
Yeah.
and I will get in front of it every single time. And your mindset, for me, changed to that. Is that whatever comes at me, I will get in front of it.
That's awesome. There's I believe it was Bruce Lee who said it first. This is, don't pray for an easy life, pray for the character to handle anything in life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think, again, once you start succeeding, you have that ability. You can just conquer anything as long as you just focus your desire on those things.
Exactly.
So right now, I think you're mostly doing like really, really large murals. Are you still doing smaller paintings as well?
Actually, this is my first summer where I've been able to do some murals.
Okay.
So these are the first set that I've done.
What's it like taking art from visually doing them on smaller pieces to doing like 20-foot tall murals?
For me, it felt natural, because for me, all my paintings kept getting larger and larger. And I'm really grateful for that, because there was a lesson that I learned in junior high. It was just a simple, we had to draw a cup for art class. But the box that I was given, I filled a very small corner of it. And my cup was detailed. It looked beautiful, 3D. It was really kick-ass, but it was dinky compared to the space that was filled. And my teacher at the time said, "It's beautiful, but I want you to fill the space." And what I got from that as I grew into the human that I am and the artist that I am is that art really portrays where a person is at in life.
Yeah.
And that's how small I felt then.
Yeah.
So in junior high, already I had no self-worth. I felt like shit. And that's how small I felt. And the beautiful thing is that it was a perfect little cup.
Yeah.
Very small, but it was very perfect. And so now in life, as I'm finding my self-worth and I'm finding that confidence, I love that I'm getting these opportunities to expand my art and have my murals are getting bigger and bigger. I mean, that last one, or not the last one, but the one I did of Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
That was the largest one I did. I want to say it's 18 foot.
It's huge. It's like the whole side of a building.
I know. He's so handsome, too.
Have you seen the movie?
I did, and I fell in love with him all over again.
I didn't really know the story. I grew up listening to Queen and stuff, but my parents grew up in the 70s, and so I'd listen to it, but not really that's a really good song. And then you see the movie and you realize who Freddie Mercury really was, and the music's just even better now.
Oh, he is just so badass. Everything he just stands for is own who you are.
Yeah.
And be proud of it.
Yeah.
Do it. Well, no one else is going to be you.
Right.
You know?
And we don't need another Freddie Mercury, or we don't need another Picasso or Joe Rogan.
No.
Just let's do us.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So that mural, when I first began it, I set it all up to prime it. And then I just had this moment where I was like, holy fuck, what did I get myself into? So I took all my prep work down. I went and got a coffee. I grabbed something to eat. I had to cry in my car because I'm like, for
The
real, like
overwhelmingness of it.
legit. I cried because I was just like, I have no problem saying yes. I say yes to life and then I figure it out. And sometimes it's not that easy. Like sometimes you have those moments where you're like, oh my God, like what did I just do? And I went back right after and I just said, fuck it, I'm going to just paint.
Yeah.
I'm going to start painting. And I know that I have this ability or else I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have been given this wall to paint.
Right.
I can do this. And when I did, even the first outline, it was amazing. It felt so good.
Yeah.
And some of the comments even were like, just when I set up the outline, people were saying like, what, did a 7-year-old do this? I'm just like,
Oh
bitch,
my
please.
goodness. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's so funny.
it's funny you say that because when you listen to comics talk about how they get to a joke is that they don't get to practice in a room. They may do some writing, but they don't actually get to really put the joke together until they're in front of an audience. So when you go to a show like a Wednesday night show or a Thursday night show, every comic in there is just trying to build that bit, that comic, the joke itself.
Yeah.
And it has to be done horribly in front of an audience 7, 8, 9 times before they can get it dialed into where everyone thinks it's funny.
Right.
And most times painters don't have to go through that because you're in your studio and you got your canvas and you do your thing. But then it's out in public and you can only, especially if it's 18 feet tall, you can't bang that off in 20 minutes, right?
No.
So you have to just suck it up, be tough, and probably not read the comments.
No. You know what? I read the comments and I laugh.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's great. I think it's so great. Whatever the reaction is, if they hate it, if they love it,
Yeah.
it's doing something.
Yeah.
It is sending off. It's hitting a reaction of some kind. And ultimately, great.
Yeah.
Like, and whatever it is, it's not like I'm going to take that on and
It has to feed into the emotion of the painting. Like it has to.
perhaps.
Maybe the negative comments is what get people to that next greater level.
Yeah, maybe. For me, I actually have gotten to a place where I love it.
Yeah.
The more kickback, sweet. Like, then I'll show you, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of how I've gotten to be.
I like criticism as well.
Yeah, I
for
think
me,
it's great.
because you can't always be the perfect self-evaluator, right? We're biased against ourselves. So to have someone else say, "Hey, you're not doing that really well." Oh,
Yeah.
hang on a second, am I not? Like you have to read into it a little bit, depending on who's giving it to you. But criticism is what's going to
Yes.
drive most people.
Yes. That being said, there is a way to deliver
Yes.
criticism.
Yeah.
And I think it's the really feisty dirtbags that I just love the most. I'm like, are you for real?
Yeah.
But yeah, like how are
You're
you as
too
a
pretty
human
to be
if
a
this
waitress
is?
type guy.
Oh, yeah, crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't get at human beings most times. Like, it doesn't make sense. You think you understand how it's supposed to work with, general population, you get it. And then one person comes out, you're like, really? That's where you're going with this?
Yeah, everything goes left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also great. Yeah. You also get to learn so much.
Fun.
Yeah, it really
It's
is.
so fun. Like people watching is a real thing.
Yeah, for sure. So is that your goal now, is to do bigger murals to continue on that path? Or are you going to go back and do some more realistic side? Well, I should say realistic. Some paintings that'll fit in people's houses.
Yeah, I am always dabbling in a bunch of things.
Awesome.
So I'm constantly trying to fight for some studio space while I am in the middle of doing a mural and wherever it goes.
How do you know when it's done? Like, what is it? A feeling, or you have a picture in your head before you start?
Each one is different. I do paint a lot of my paintings from dreams.
Okay.
And so I do, some of them I have a vision of how it should look. And however I see it in my head doesn't even come out the way I see it.
Yeah.
So I just, at that point, it becomes whatever it is. When you know it's done, I don't know.
You just know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sometimes I'm just like, all right, I have no more energy to put into this.
Yeah.
And for me, I am like everyone's worst nightmare. I really am, because businesses want to start hiring me. Festivals and galas want to start hiring me to do live paintings, and some of them really need to have an idea, a concept of what it'll look like.
Yeah.
But for me, I can show them a concept and in very bold letters say it will not look like nothing like this.
Yeah.
It won't, because once I get to the canvas, it's strange. I almost like blank out.
Yeah.
I get in my own world.
Yeah.
And nothing else matters until this painting comes out.
Yeah.
And so it's strange, but sometimes I feel like I wake up and there's a painting.
Oh, wow.
It's like so in depth.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Meditative almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of fucked up.
Do you meditate?
Well, I would say that painting would be my form of meditation.
Yeah.
I don't actually like sit there and do a meditation, but I would say art, like painting,
Is
would
your
be
meditation.
it. Absolutely.
That makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
The how long does it take you to do a painting? Like, what's say you're doing I don't know, a 5x4 painting.
So if I'm on point,
Yeah.
I can bang one out in a couple hours.
Yeah.
And then other times I'll get started and I won't get back to it for a year or two.
Oh, wow.
Like
Yeah.
it really all depends. All of it is based on feeling.
Yeah.
So if the energy goes left for whatever reason, I put it aside and I don't get back to it until later.
I am such a systematic person. Like, I think I can be creative, but I understand the systems of the world, right? There are certain principles that take place, and that's what I follow and how I gain. It's like a game. When you understand the system better, you can play the game better. And so that's sort of my thought. So when I hear artists like singers, songwriters, book writers, artists, painters, sculptors say it, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I don't get the system. Like, I don't.
There is none.
And there really isn't any.
There's no system.
That's the joy of art.
And that's why I firmly believe we need artists in this world. Mm-hmm. We need to crack the system.
Right.
And for me, like, I don't understand the system. I'm just like, why are you doing this? Like, all in a box. And I don't understand that mentality, because for me, I experience a world outside of that. So,
did you grow up in Grand Prairie?
I did.
So that's been your hometown your whole life, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a pretty small town.
It is.
Did you travel lots?
It is. I traveled a fair amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that some of the inspiration you got was from other places?
I mean, obviously you pick up really great positive life experiences and inspiration everywhere you go, right? Anytime you travel, you can never be the same person that you once were.
I ask difficult questions sometimes. I like to try to figure out why people do what they do and how they do it. Like, to me, there's always a system involved, because that's how I think. And so, like, how much of, like, when you travel, did you go to art galleries, visit with artists, or did you just travel? Like just go have fun, party?
I traveled. Yeah. I partied. I was a wasted case. It was it was like benders. I was like white girl wasted. It's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. And not always. Like, I did grow up.
Yeah.
But
well, you don't drink at all now, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
There's no drugs, no alcohol, no.
No alcohol.
Yeah.
But alcohol was my vice.
Right.
That's what I used to numb life.
Right.
And for me, it's very easy to fall back on that.
Yeah.
I do feel though that I've gotten to a place. I've been actually working with a shaman for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And through that, through working with her, I've come to a really nice place of healing where I've decided that I can acknowledge when drinking would become a problem, or I can see how I misused it.
Yeah.
I don't see it being an issue now, but I choose not to drink because it really forced me to live.
Yeah.
And as strange as that sounds, but when I decided to go sober, it pushed me to experience so many uncomfortable situations.
I would imagine.
Like social events, all social events. Here I thought I was outgoing.
Yeah.
The truth is I was wasted and I could tolerate people.
Yeah.
So for me to step outside of that and experience stagettes and art gallery openings and weddings and all of these things where it's very common for people to drink, and I show up and I've had to learn and build my character.
Yeah.
I value that. I find a lot of value in that, and I don't want to lose that.
We are just in the process of going through a book called Being Anxious for Nothing.
Yeah.
And so it's about people that suffer from anxieties. And I think everyone has some anxieties, and we should. It's a tool like depression or
yes.
sadness or
Yes.
anything else. But there's people that suffer it all day, every day for a long period of time. And this is sort of what the book is for, is to help them overcome it. And I realized in my younger days, that's what I used alcohol for, was to get through social situations, to pick up girls, to, be around family, to take care of that kind of stuff. And so then I only figured that out now, but I went through a part of my life where I was like, I'm not going to drink anymore. And I stopped. And there was a few years that I stopped, and then you start drinking again, you fall back into that habit where you don't have control over what's going on.
Yes.
And then so now if I do it, I make a decision like, oh, I'm going to have 3 drinks tonight. And then I can go out and have 3 drinks and no more, no less. And I set my rule for the night. So
Yeah.
I can go out and know what's going to happen instead of going out and having a shot of tequila. And the next thing you know, you're, a bottle deep into
tequila.
Well, and tequila's not good for me. It makes me hit people. It's the one really bad one for me is tequila. I can drink beer and vodka and rye and rum, and that I'm a happier version of me.
Right.
But yeah, tequila makes me hit people, and I don't even know why. That's like poison, that stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. So fun.
So with this shaman, is there ayahuasca, DMT, or is this just studying yourself?
No, it really is facing hard truths.
Yeah.
It really is. It really was like, yeah, you are taught to remove all the masks and you peel back the layers and you have to face it. You have to sit in your dirt and you have to observe it and learn from it. It's been beautiful.
I have a friend who did a philosophy doctorate. He's just his thesis short of being a doctor. And then he became a pastor. And now he's a garbage man. But we did a podcast together, and we were talking about those things and this growth that he went through on doing all those different things. And I was asking him, so through this, he suffered some pain from being a pastor and from not getting his doctorate and that kind of stuff. And I said, how many people do you think in this world should do some form of therapy? And he said, everyone. There's nobody that's void. But having a shaman is a form of therapy.
Absolutely.
Doing DMT and LSD and psilocybin in the right conditions is a form of therapy. And there's traditional, psychiatrists and sociologists and stuff like that. So he thinks everybody should be doing some form of therapy.
I'm not embarrassed.
No, I think
I think it's
excellent.
amazing. To see me even 2 years ago, is a completely different person.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
How did
But
it?
you have to put in the work.
Yeah.
And I don't shy away from putting in the work.
Yeah.
I work really hard.
I think that's literally the key to life is to put in the work. So
Yes.
whatever's not working, if you know it's not working, just do something different. Try it.
Yeah.
Like how bad could it be if you just try something a little bit different?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What have you got to lose?
Right. Yeah.
Like you fail, what? Who cares?
That's the big one.
Fail.
Right.
Fucking fail hard.
It's all good.
Fall on your ass.
Face first in the dirt.
Yes, do it. Have fun with it. Like
I've only in my 40s realizing that failure is okay.
you know what? It is such a beautiful tool.
Yeah.
It is so beautiful. Without me just experiencing life and exploring life and falling and making those hard fails,
Yeah.
where would I be?
Right.
Sitting on a cushion somewhere? Like, that sounds fucking boring.
I know.
No thanks.
The friend that I met with today, I think some people are looking for that. How do I arrange my life so that it's easy and I don't have any stress?
Yeah.
And I don't see the value in a life like that.
No.
The failure, the hard times, the embarrassment, those are all the tools for growth. I have
Beautiful.
Andy Caselli came on here, and he's a writer, writes books. Excuse me. And I asked him what he did. Like, he's written 3 or 4 books, or four or 5 books. I can't remember now. He wrote a bunch of books, and I said, "Did you publish them?" He goes, "Oh no, I just threw them out. They weren't that good." And I says, "Well, how do you know they weren't that good?" He goes, "Oh, I do the books for me. That's it. I write the books to release whatever needs to be released." And he says, if someone else said they were no good, I would agree. And if someone else said they were good, then it didn't really matter to him. So he's like, I write the books and then I throw them out. And I was like, there's something in there that I think is beneficial. And that's like the failure. So not publishing it, not going after that next point, I think is a bit of a failure on his point.
I'd be curious as to what he's afraid of. What's holding him back? Because if you are taking the energy to write it out,
Yeah.
then there's something there that the world needs to hear.
I
because
agree.
it's not just our story.
Right.
It is not. It's a story that we're a part of. But if it's a story that other people could benefit from.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any story that should be left alone.
I agree.
This is what makes the world go round. This is what makes us connect with other human beings.
Yeah.
This is everything.
Yeah.
Stories are absolutely everything.
I agree. This is the great thing about the podcast is that I get to hear people's personal stories. I get to dig into their life and just meet these unbelievable people that change my life every time. Jamie Pruden came on, and what a man. Like, holy Dinah. I was blown away. Me and Eric were literally sitting here in tears listening to his story and trying to turn the podcast back around. But it was inspiring. As sad and as hard as his life was, it was inspiring because look where he is now. Like,
I listened to that one.
He's selling art all over the place. He's sought after. He's got a great show that he does, and coming from where he came from to where he was, again, the story it was brilliant.
Yes.
Have you ever thrown out a piece of art? Like just
yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And do you know what? Everyone says you shouldn't regret anything in life. Those are the moments I've regretted.
Oh wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And anything else in life, I can't say. They've just been experiences, but I have regretted throwing away art.
Yeah. I feel the same way, even with my kids. The little pieces of art they do, to me, it's like...
Oh, yeah, but shit. Those get piled up so quickly.
I know.
We love them, but come on.
There's a few pieces that I've pulled out that I've taken photographs of, and I'll save them forever because they're a 6-year-old's or an 8-year-old's piece of art. But it's still, to me, I would see this massive growth in them, in their art, and it blew me away. Because I'm not an artist at all. I'm not that that type of creativity. And so when I see it in other people, I'm blown away. It's like people who play guitar.
Yeah.
How anyone, even you play the basic 3 chords, I'm like, that is impressive.
Right?
Yeah.
Really? That's actually a really great idea, though, to take photographs of the artwork and then make an album out of it.
Yeah, I think I'll probably put something together when maybe for her wedding day or her graduation or something like that of all the art and the history behind it.
Yeah, at our house, we have a large, like 18-foot wall, and I just filled it with the kids' paintings.
Nice.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is my favorite wall in the house. It really is. It's brilliant.
I had a friend back in BC when I lived there. When his baby was born, they lived in a townhome, and so he went in and he painted a big mural of the Lion King on the wall, and it was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet wide, maybe 4 or 5 feet tall, and it was a really, really cool painting. It looked like a Disney painting, and so they had a big change in life. They were moving to Kelowna. I was moving there with them, and he's like, I don't want to paint this over. We're selling our condo. What do I do? And so I actually went in and I cut the drywall. I was a drywaller, right?
Yeah.
So I cut the drywall out. I pulled the whole mural out. I put it on a piece of plywood and framed it, and then gave it to him. And then I patched the wall.
brilliant.
So then he got to keep the piece of art forever.
Beautiful.
That's the thing about the murals that you do is what's going to happen in 10 years. Like
People need to appreciate them now.
right.
That is what is up.
Go get a picture in front of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do like, which is beautiful too in itself.
Yeah.
I think we all need to learn how to live in the now.
Yeah.
And I'm not even worried about the future.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'll worry about it when I get there.
Beautiful. What I was in New Orleans, very, very old city, and we were looking through an old, like a pawn shop type thing. And this building was like, I don't know, I want to say built in like 1790 or 1820, like old building. And the lady that owned the building, I was talking to her, and she's like, come look at this. And she shows me a graffiti from 1905 where some kid had done a drawing in a corner and signed it and put his name on it. But it was from 1905. That's how long it had lasted in the building. And this was in 2018. And I'm not even 100% sure it was a kid. It looked like a kid's product. But they signed it and they dated it on a wall in a stairwell of this like 200-year-old building.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
I love ancient things that just tell a story.
We did a vacation in Nova Scotia this summer, and we went to this little town of Pictou, where most of the houses were built by Scottish sailors that had come over. They were inspired by Scottish architects, and some of the buildings were like 200 years old as well. Me and my daughter fell in love with the town instantly, but my wife and my son, they pulled into town. They're like, nope, no, we don't want no part of this at all. Do you believe buildings and inanimate objects can hold an energy?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think that is?
It could be anything. I believe spirits and all of that weird shit. Yeah.
Where does our energy go when we die?
Yeah. Like
it has to be held in something, right? It doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away. Like, and I think that's where so many people do life wrong.
Yeah.
They focus on their bodies.
Yeah.
And they forget to nourish their souls.
Right.
And they forget to nourish the long-lasting parts of life.
Yeah.
And that's where the true beauty of a person is.
Yeah.
And
so with this shaman, is it like self-reflection? Is that what it's based on?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Basically.
I focus really, really hard on self-evaluation all the time, and I'm probably my worst critic, but I think it's important that everyone have a system of self-evaluation.
There's a responsibility,
right?
I feel that needs to be held on the daily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I don't think enough people do it. If they do, they're maybe not critical enough.
Yeah, well, and I guess that's a tricky one, because then there's some people that are far too hard on themselves, and we have to learn to fucking lighten up. This is just life.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, this is just life.
Yeah.
And we have one to live, that we should just experience it to the fullest by making it mistakes, by by taking responsibility for them and just building that personal growth and that character and integrity and finding that true like core
Yeah.
of life.
Do you know who Dr. Jordan Peterson is?
No.
He wrote a book that's right behind you there, The 12 Rules of Life, An Antidote to Chaos. It's an amazing book, I think, for anyone that's into self-evaluation. But the rule that sort of stuck out for me was he says, first, do what's right for you. But not only right for you, it has to be right for you and your family and the community and the world. And then not only does it have to be right for all that, but it has to be right today, tomorrow, 10 years and 100 years from now. And I really started focusing on that as I read his book or listened to his book was how do we make good decisions in our lives that we're growing and changing and making the community better. I'm just going to take some pictures. That we are making the world better and that we are growing and that we're not stuck slumped over on the couch watching TV for 6 hours every night, right?
Well, and that's the biggest thing is that people play small. I find people play small and they don't realize the value that they bring to this world. I've really so often I actually started writing a book, and so many times this was years ago even, and I crumpled it up, I threw it out, and I'd restart it and crumpled it up, and such a pain in the ass. But what got me to stop was who would want to hear my story?
Right.
And all that is me playing small.
Right.
Because
a little teacup, right?
Exactly. It's that little teacup because that little teacup is perfect.
Yeah.
Just as it was. And like when it comes to other people, I'm like, why wouldn't you tell your story?
Yeah.
Because as I've learned to open up and to share more and more, so many people get that freedom to be themselves.
Yeah.
And they get to share. And there's this beautiful interaction when someone shares their story where we can be human together.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you're not perfect. Or, oh, something similar happened.
Yeah.
And stories need to be retold and retold and retold. And as we share those stories, I find that the shame, the guilt, the embarrassment, all that negative energy from there, it dissipates.
Right.
It becomes watered down, and it becomes to a point where it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah. You don't need to pack it with you.
No.
Right.
No. Because it's just a story.
Yeah.
This is just life. Like
I grew up in a house where we were very much discouraged from telling people what was going on. And like, no one needs to know what your finances is. No one needs to know how you feel. No one, it was meant to stay in our house only. And that was so handcuffing. Is that a word? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It prevented so much from happening in my life to the point where I've gone almost too far the other direction where I'm willing to share absolutely anything because I want to hear someone's opinion on it. You know, I'm thinking this, I'm feeling this, I did this, and they're like, oh, like that's really not cool. And you're like, oh, how come that's not cool? And then get the description and make the changes accordingly. As long as you got to take into who you're talking to into account, but
absolutely. And it's even that whole like for me, quite often it's
thank you.
Children are not a part of the conversations.
Right.
And
to be seen and not heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that blows me away. It blows me away because a child will know what's up.
Yeah.
And they can feel the energy of a room long before an adult will pick it up sometimes.
Yeah.
And
they have a natural ability because they don't have the communication skills. I think they have a natural ability to feel things quicker than we do.
Yeah.
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 I've told this story before. I don't know if it's told on the podcast. When my daughter was about 2, we couldn't do regular baby monitors in the house. Just the electronics wouldn't work. And so I hardwired her room with a night vision camera and a spy microphone that got fed right to my TV. And so in the night, I could turn the TV on and I could watch and see her. I could literally hear her heartbeat through this microphone. It was amazing. But she would get up in the middle of the night and she would stand up in her crib like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and she would follow something in her room and talk to it. And I would sit there. She wasn't scared. She wasn't freaking out. She wasn't nothing, but she was having a full conversation in the pitch black with something inside that room. And I was always like, what is that's going on? And I have no answer. I mean, I can speculate 1,000 different things that it could be, but it amazed me that she could see or feel an energy inside of the room and communicate with it in the middle of the night. Like she just, I couldn't see it.
It's natural.
I've gone in there when she was doing it and nothing, didn't feel nothing, didn't see nothing, but there's definitely an energy that that is around us all the time, that we lose the ability to see or feel.
Absolutely. We've had similar experiences when the kids were younger. My daughter was 2 or 3, maybe 3 or 4, I don't know, younger. But she was playing in a room and laughing, and she was joking, and she was like, "That's not funny, Papa." And so I walked in there, and it's just her playing on the floor by herself.
Yeah.
But my ex-husband's father passed away before our kids came into the world.
Yeah.
And we discovered that she could see him, and she would play with him.
Yeah.
And he would tease her because when I asked her, I was like, "Who are you talking to?" She's like, "It's Papa." And he said, he was bugging her. He's like, "Oh, you're so handsome, Olivia." And when I told my husband at the time this, I was like, "Is that something your dad would have said?" Because I never met him. He was passed before I was in the picture. And he was like, "Absolutely."
That's so weird.
Yeah, to pull out that personality.
I have another similar story. I used to live in Calgary in this really, really old house, and there was a bunch of weird things that went inside the house that I couldn't explain. But anyways, I was dating this girl, and she was staying over, and she woke up one night and screamed, like it scared the daylights out of her. She scrambled across the bed, and she's like, I got to go home. I saw something. And so anyways, I talked to her the next day. She goes, "No, I woke up. I definitely saw something in your room. It was an older man. This is what he was dressed like, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Oh, that's really weird." So she came over a couple nights later, and she was bringing white candles and incense and trying to sage in the place. And I'm like, all right, like I wasn't discouraging it, but I really didn't understand it. So anyways, a few weeks after that, we're over at my mom and dad's. I had actually just introduced her. My mom had this habit of bringing out old photos whenever I brought a girl over. And so she's going through those old photos, and there was a picture of my grandfather, who I've never met. She's like, "That was the guy beside the bed."
Oh, wow.
Like,
instant. I just got goosebumps.
I know.
Wow.
And so it's funny because the more I got to know about my grandfather is that he was like a very moral man. Like there's no sex before marriage. There's no there's a way to do things, and it was old school Christian ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And so he would have been angry about what was going on. And so that's why he was standing beside the bed, staring down in anger at what he was visualizing, because that's not what he would have wanted for his grandson at all.
That is so funny.
I know. And she saw it. I never saw it.
Yeah.
But she saw it, and I was like, holy dynamite.
Oh,
like,
that is so
talking
funny.
about goosebumps. Yeah, it scared I don't know. I've never seen it go, so I can't say I believe in them or I don't believe in them. I feel energies when I go into buildings for sure, and I love old buildings. Like I can literally walk up and put my hands on a building, and I can feel the energy from the building. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I think there's something, and there's scientists trying to figure out what that is because so many people feel it.
It's energy.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
But how do you find out what energy? Where did it come from? What's the history of it?
Why do we have to know?
I don't know. I want to know.
I know you want to know, but why do we have to know everything?
I don't know. See?
Because I
I
know.
want to know.
Oh, that's so funny.
I know.
Because for me, it just drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Everything has to be labeled. Everything has to,
I
be
agree.
scientifically
I
proven.
agree wholeheartedly.
Throw everything out.
No.
Like we're just like opposites.
Yeah,
on
yeah.
The other side of the table.
I want to
It's so
know
funny.
the theory. I want to know the reason. I want to know the formula because there's a
But
formula.
what does that get you?
I don't know.
For me,
Yeah.
it forms a way that you should be thinking. And it kind of walks you away from feeling it out and learning yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why it drives me crazy.
I think even when you know the formula, so this is the thing in my early Christian life. So I didn't grow up in church or anything like that. We kind of got into it as we had kids. I had met, what are they called? People that travel around, do missionary.
Yeah.
And I said, what would be great is to have a phone that you could pick up and say, God, what am I supposed to do here? And which would be awesome if someone had some real guidance for you. I was lost. I didn't know what the answers were to anything, and I was searching. Mm-hmm. And if I had someone I could call that 100% would tell me the truth, what would that be? And he says, yeah, but if you were told, would you do it? And then I sat back and went,
no.
I don't know. If I agreed, if I thought it was,
Right?
if I thought it was right, like that's the thing that I want to know, but why? I don't know why I want to know. I want to know. I want to know what the formula is. I want to know why people think, why you paint the way you paint. Like to me, if I could understand the emotion or the system or the brushstroke, that would be my desire in life, is to understand people more than anybody else.
Ugh.
and it's a lot to take on. Like it weighs on my mind. I
Wow.
manage.
Let that shit go.
Well, and I don't, not in a negative way. Like it really is.
I think it's brilliant. I love that you navigate through life completely different than I do.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
And same with you and artists. I
Yeah.
love hearing the story and why. And in my mind, I'm boggled. I'm like, painting all day. Like, is it to make the house more beautiful?
It's so beautiful. Yeah. Painting all day because it's amazing.
I can see it in your videos and in your paintings, and I can feel the amazement. I can feel.
You?
I can, for
That's
sure.
amazing.
And
To me, that means the world.
I've met quite a few artists since I've done the podcast, and I feel what they're trying to accomplish. I think
That's huge.
and
That's huge. That's all an artist would want out of life. Like for me, I drop what I gotta drop, and I kind of just throw it out there. Opinions, whatever they come at me, I let it be. But I have had so many moments where I was honored.
Yeah.
So many moments where people would look at a painting and they would stop and they would just cry.
Yeah.
Like to me, to pull out that kind of emotion out of a human being where we're very, we can be tough.
Right.
We learn to numb.
Yeah.
We learn to
Shut
be
down.
robots. Yes. Yeah. And so for me to be able to draw out that kind of emotion out of another human being is everything. It's absolutely everything.
I think that's what I like about art, is because it makes me feel different than a TV or than Facebook or even different than the one-on-one interaction. Like one of my rules for the podcast is I'll never do a phone call or a Skype podcast. I want to be directly in front of the person and feel that energy. And I think that's where you get the best conversations.
Yeah.
That's where, and I'm not always good at it. There's sometimes I come in with bad energy and sometimes they come in with bad or negative energy. But this is the best chance we have of getting to know each other.
Right.
Thank you. You want to go to the Facebook page, my Facebook page, and look up Shewolf Studios. There's one painting in there that I told my wife, I don't even know if it's still available or not. I'm like, this is what I want because we're going to build a better studio downstairs. Right now, we've stolen my wife's dining room. If you scroll down, it's the one, and I'll get you to open it up on this screen when you find it. But it's the painting it's a black and white painting of a girl holding a smoking gun.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah. It's called My Body, My Rules.
Nice. Where did that come from? What was the inspiration for that?
Oof. That
Keep
one
going.
got dug up from a
There it
vault. Yeah.
This painting.
Oof. Yeah, she's pretty badass.
That painting blows my mind. Like, I'm not even sure why. I'm not even sure what the...
Well, that one's funny because I was so pressed for time, and when I first started at it and I decided to go that big, I was like, oh my God, this is aggressive. Like, should I even go this big? But the thing is, when I was younger, I was sexually abused. And that is a big feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That leaves big everything.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's a theft,
it had.
right?
Absolutely. It had to be that big.
Yeah.
For me to be just to say, I'm fucking done with this.
Right.
Like I'm no longer I'm a victim. I no longer hold this.
Right.
It's
no
not
grudge,
it's not
no
for
hatred.
me. No.
Nice.
No.
You can take that.
You know what? Honestly, if I was to meet these humans again, I don't know if I'd come at them with compassion, but people inflict pain who are feeling pain.
Right.
And I couldn't even imagine what they've gone through.
Right.
You know, I obviously think there's responsibility even after if something happens to us, it's, you know, our responsibility to not take that on and to heal.
Yeah.
But before we inflict it on anyone else.
There's a great video of Dr. Jordan Peterson talking about the greatness of humanity. And he talks about if we took the bad people in the world, the murderers, the rapists, the pedophiles, and we said that every time they did something bad, that's just going to, that means the person they did it to is going to do something bad, and that person's going to do something bad all the way down the line. Then essentially our whole world would have fallen into chaos in something ridiculous like 80 years or like 2 generations.
Absolutely.
But that's not what happens. There's horrible people doing horrible things, and it can stop right there. There is history of it moving on. Obviously, the person that hurt you was hurt by somebody, most likely.
Yes.
And now it's stopped.
There's that was sorry, I just ate the microphone. There definitely was moments that I remember. I was 8 or 9 and I slept with a knife under my pillow.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly one moment where I was laying there holding this knife like under the pillow, and I was ready. I was prepared for anything. I was like a little kid, you know?
Yeah.
And for me at the time, it made sense.
Yeah.
But I had that moment where I was like, this is not going to happen to my kids. This is not going to happen to me when I am older. And from that moment on, things changed. Yeah. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't like, all right, now I'm on this like golden road.
Right.
I was in bad relationships growing up, and those hurt me. And you know, you learn as you go, but ultimately, in the end, I feel like I put in the work.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for my partner, who I was able to have my kids with, because he really is a beautiful soul. He is a beautiful human being, and he helped me through the hardest times of my life.
Yeah.
He processed the dirt with me,
Yeah.
and he was very gentle in it. He was very kind, and not once. Oh man, I could push.
You were the button pusher.
Oh man, there's just times where I'm like, this house is too quiet. We need some chaos
Time
up in
to
here.
rev it up.
Yeah. Who's got some shit to stir?
Yeah.
And,
I always say whoever wants to stir the shit pot should have to lick the spoon.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so there's those moments, and never once, not once, did he ever yell at me. Not once did he ever lay a hand on me. And he, even to this day, we are 2 years separated now. He loves me through it all.
Yeah.
Still. And for me to meet that man,
Yeah.
after what I've been through, like I really grew up thinking all men were monsters.
Yeah.
And how it happened that I found this man and we had our kids was very systematic for the Christian Mennonite upbringing for me. And all of it. For him to go through all of that with me taught me to trust men.
Yeah.
And it sucks that it took me so long to realize now how many men are hurting.
Yeah. I saw your post from early on in your personal page talking about supporting men and allowing them to be hurt and to communicate. Like, we don't have to be tough all the time. I'm a firm believer in talking about how you feel and letting it out there. No matter, you have to let that ego go, right?
Oh shit! This one's gonna make me cry, like for real, because so many men put up a front. They don't talk about stuff. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking because you are human, and you have your own shit that happens to you that you have to process, and the outside world comes at you and says you don't have a voice.
Yeah.
You don't get to have feelings about this. You don't get to heal. You can't be sensitive about this.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine. I could not even imagine. So you have a couple, and this is going to be an example, and it might be triggering. But you have a couple that lose a baby. Mm-hmm. And there's so much support for women. Mm-hmm. But as if the father didn't have his dreams crushed, as if the father doesn't feel that pain,
That loss,
that same loss.
Yeah.
Like, yes, he's not carrying it, but that was his fucking baby.
Yeah.
And that could have been everything that he's ever dreamed of gone suddenly.
Yeah.
And yet he's there holding the mother in his arms while she's grieving, and he's got to like toughen up.
Yeah.
Right? And that's,
I think there's definitely a time when men have to be tough. There's an old saying when or Jordan Peterson says that men, we all should have monsters inside of us. That is what wins the battles of the day. That we should have control over that monster, though. And then I think in the same token, you have to somewhat tame that monster by not holding in everything, right? I think that there's a time when we got to buck up and we got to be tough, but there's also a time when we have to be able to say, "Hey, this is too much for me. I need a help. I need a friend. I need whatever." That you should be able to do that easily.
yes.
And not feel ashamed for needing it. And I agree. I think there's too many men out there that don't share. We had Crystal Boys on from Airdrie Power. She's trying to get a shelter here. This town that I'm in, unfortunately, has the highest level of abuse in all of Canada by 4 times, and she's trying to open a shelter for women. And I said, but what about the guys? Like even the abusers, they need support, or they will just continue to be abusers. Someone has to teach them how to cage that monster, or control that monster, right? And I think you're right. There's too many times that men are overlooked, but for a good reason. Typically we're the tyrants. Typically we're the horrible people in the world that started wars, Genghis Khan or Hitler, or Mao's China. All those things were done by men. And there's almost never been a woman to start a war or to create havoc the way men do. And so I think there's some area to be made up for what men have done as a whole, and we have to take some responsibility for that. But in the same token, I think that comes through sharing our emotions and sharing our feelings and sharing, our spirituality. And, there's cultures around the world where men hug and kiss and, they really support each other. And in Canada, we're like, stop being a baby. Right. Suck it up, buttercup.
And it really is all about finding balance. It really is.
There's...
Every aspect of life.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love the definition of meek. I think, I don't know if you've heard this one before, but to be a meek man is the ability to wield a sword, but choosing to keep it sheathed. So knowing, like, I just saw this meme the other day, and it kind of made me mad. And then I was like, no, this is really true. It was basically saying that people that say that they're passive or non-aggressive or non-violent, it's because they don't have the ability. That's not really... I'm trying to think of the exact wording because I'm not getting it right. So you are only in control if you actually have the capability to be the monster, right?
Yes, absolutely. If it's irrelevant...
Right. Then you're not, you don't get to tell everybody you're passive if you don't have the ability to be violent.
Exactly.
Right. And so I think that's what men need to do is like, no. I am feeling very violent right now, or I'm feeling very sad, or whatever the feeling is.
Well, and it's women too, as if we can't get turned up. I have every ability to turn up just like anyone else.
Right. Yeah.
But it's just learning.
Do you ever use that in your paintings? Like you feel complete anger or jealousy or whatever negative and then go paint? Or is it usually coming from the place of love and peace and meditation?
Ugh, no. You know what? Honestly, it rarely is coming from love, peace, and meditation. Okay. That is not who I am.
Yeah.
I am like, my last name is Love. Which is beautiful. Yeah. But like who I am inside feels fiery. Cool. I have so much aggression. I feel like I'm just pent up all the time. It is like I don't know how to explain it other than it's just like passion. Yeah. Because I can't remember what the question was. What?
I don't either. What is your?
Oh, right. Okay, wait, hold up.
Well, where do the paintings come from?
Right. Yeah. And yes, and even though I say that I try to portray love, for me, it's pulling out the dirt, the aggression, the shitty feelings that I have, and bringing light to it. Yeah. It is not all about like kumbaya. I am not that peaceful of a human being
Well, with your heritage background, you're a true warrior.
Right? For fucking real. Right? We throw down.
Yeah, First Nations, Scottish. Yeah.
The Blood Tribe.
Blood Tribe. Where's the Blood Tribe from? What's the origins?
Lethbridge.
Okay.
So like my great grandfather was Mike Mountain Horse, and he was the chief of the tribe. Okay. And it was just a bloodbath. Yeah. Like we were given the Blood Tribe name for a reason. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that in today's world, when we talk about all the abuse that the English, the Christians, the white people have done to First Nations around the world, I think people forget how violent the First Nations were. We just happened to show up with more people, and we've made it last longer. But there's
well, listen, I'm still here. So
Yeah. Not that we haven't done horrible things, because we most definitely have done horrible things. But all of humanity has done horrible things throughout.
Yeah.
And every tribe, there was no tribe or type of people in the world that didn't do something horrible at some point.
oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And I can't speak for anyone else. All I know is that I handle me.
Yeah.
I handle me first.
I think I was just remembering back to our first conversation online, and it was I had commented on your heavy bag work, or was it?
Oh
mitts?
yeah, where I dropped my left
You
hook.
dropped your
I
left
dropped
hand,
it.
right?
I did. I was so lazy.
It's a heavy bag. You don't have
It
to be
wasn't
all
lazy.
that
It was the
defensive.
end of the workout.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of kickboxing?
I used to. Full disclosure, I guess, like after I had my son, I just progressively got quite sick.
Okay.
And I couldn't leave the house. It got to a point where I was focused around napping and I couldn't take care of the kids anymore.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Postpartum depression.
No, like I was physically sick. Like
Okay.
I was essentially bleeding to death.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is weird. Full disclosure, I guess. So I ended up having a hysterectomy.
Yeah.
And actually, that is beautiful in itself because while I was going through that process, prior to I did CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
I got to the point where it was like 5 or 6 times a week. I was kickboxing. I was belly dancing.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I was taking the kids outside for walks, bike rides. Like I was very, very active. For me, that was a healthy mind.
Yeah.
And when all of a sudden I just could not. I couldn't do anything. I went from like 100 to 0.
Ugh.
And it was so painful. It was painful mentally.
Yeah.
And I was going crazy. Like ultimately I was losing my mind because I had no outlet. I went from being so active to being in bed for about 9 months.
Wow.
Where I needed help getting in and out of bed. Like it was
Be anemic.
so brutal.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing that came from that, though, is because I was losing my mind, I started writing.
Yeah.
I started drawing in bed. I started painting in bed. And this is how my art career began.
Oh wow.
So once I was able to become more mobile and I took my painting, my little bed drawings, and I started painting in the living room, and I would just take a raw canvas and tack it up onto the wall and just paint from there.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, something quite big happened from this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love hearing those stories from pain and suffering where you something grows out of it, because I think far too often that knocks people down completely. They're just down and out. They had the 10 count and they're all done. So
Well, so many times, I'm like, this is where people drop off. This is
Right.
where people drop off. And every time you level up, you kind of just see where you would have given up,
yeah.
right? But you don't, and you just keep going. You're like, okay, so that was a level. That's another level, and you just keep going at it.
That's the system, though, right?
Oh,
Is
there's
that
the system.
The ones that don't
Look at
quit.
me play the game.
I have this friend from born and raised in India, and is very corrupt over there financially and in the government, and it's a struggle to make a living as a business person over there, and not to be in poverty. But he did very well, and he still was able to keep his moral ground by doing it. And I was like, I can't picture that. Like, how did you not lose your morality in there? How did you not cheat the system a little bit? He goes, no. When you completely understand the system, you can work within that system and beat everybody easily. And from that time that I heard that, I'm like, yep, I can win this game. I don't even know what the game is.
And I understand. I understand that concept.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they're definitely, for me, even though it doesn't come naturally to me, and I'm like, I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah. You don't like to be contained into the box.
No, but I understand it.
Yeah.
And that's all I need to know. I
There's a
understand
system.
it.
I know I'm playing a game.
And I'm on, yeah. That's kind of how you keep steps ahead.
I agree. I wrote a whole bunch of notes here, and I think we've got through almost everything. Why'd you start art? Conceptual artists. Yeah. Are we missing anything? Is there something you want to share? You shared a lot, and I thank you. Like, this has been awesome.
Yeah, I don't know just off by hand.
Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's make a plan that every time you're in Calgary, we record another podcast. You come by, I'll make coffee or water or whatever.
Really?
Yeah, every time.
Amazing.
And we'll just catch up and get to know each other better.
Oh, that's amazing.
Cool.
I
And
would
then
love that.
Tonight we're gonna go see Mo America, hang out with some of your Calgary friends.
Mr. Mo Ammer.
Ammer.
So excited.
Me too.
Yeah, it's
I
gonna be a
haven't been
great
to this
show.
casino to Yuck Yuck yet, so I'm super
I have not.
excited. So.
I have not yet either. This has been such an amazing trip.
Awesome.
Calgary treats me so well every
Are
time.
you working while you're in Calgary? You just said you did a photo shoot.
I did a photo shoot.
was
So
it
this
for?
became for me it'll be like marketing.
Okay.
Oh my god. The space. You know that abandoned gas station by Canmore?
Yes. Yeah.
Graffitied.
Yes.
It is fucking gorgeous.
It is. Every time I drive by, I'm like, I gotta pull over, but we're always in a rush to get somewhere.
Oh no. We just took over
Nice.
that whole space.
There's
It was
another
gorgeous.
one. You passed it when you were coming in, north of Airdrie by Bowden.
Oh, okay.
I want to say there's one on the west side of the highway as well. It's south of Bowden, north of Airdrie. There's another abandoned gas station there. That's
Oh,
full of
really?
graffiti. Yeah.
Graffitied as well. Oh,
And then, so when I first moved to Calgary, I was hanging out, living downtown, and there was this gay bar, which was the closest bar to where I lived, and it had super cheap beer. So
Right.
I went there for the cheap beer, but I ended up being friends with a bunch of these drag queens and cross-dressers.
gay bars are my favorite.
They're so much fun.
That's where the fun is to be had.
But they're always doing a photo shoot. Always
yeah?
doing a photo. It doesn't matter. They love dressing up. They love
Yeah.
getting out and doing photo shoots. So
Yes.
we got to see some of the coolest spots in Calgary. So if you want
Amazing.
more, let me know, and I'll let you. I'll find some spots.
all the
downtown.
hot spots.
There's some
Ooh.
really cool old buildings downtown, like the Bay Building has some great architecture, even down
Yeah.
low. You can get some great photos. And Inglewood has a bunch of really old buildings with the graffiti in
very
it as well.
cool.
So the old brick, like railway
Yes.
buildings and stuff. So, I love graffiti. It's another piece of art that I don't really understand, but when I see it, I'm like, that is freaking amazing.
Ugh, the world.
Yeah.
The world just needs color.
I know. I agree.
We just need color, especially with all the snow falling.
I know. Are you a winter person?
No.
I hate the winter. You live up in
No.
Grand Prairie. That's
I
like almost the
know.
North Pole.
It's the worst. But you know what? Grand Prairie has treated me really well.
Yes.
Grand Prairie has treated me really well. I'm so grateful for all the support I've gotten.
Yeah. Your kids are there.
Yeah. And I think home is wherever you make it.
Yeah.
You could put me anywhere and I will make it my home.
I was trying to explain this to my 14-year-old. We were driving around last night, and she was complaining about our town. And at 14, I know they're trying to find their way, so I'm not too bad. But you can make home anywhere you go. It's just
Anywhere.
a choice of making your home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of friends that took off to the big city and all of that. And honestly, last summer I was thinking of piecing out and coming to Calgary.
Yeah.
But in that process, I just realized like Grand Prairie right now is where I need to be.
Yeah.
That's where I need to make my biggest influence.
This is the joy of the internet, right? So many people bash it, but it has expanded the world for artists, for everybody. Like, how are people that aren't from Grand Prairie going to find your art if it wasn't for the internet and for social media?
Well, I don't know. I'm starting to get around.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Yeah. Cool. So nothing else happening in Calgary right now?
No, but like for me to go to a photo shoot this morning and come to a podcast, and then tonight we'll have a little bit of pleasure to go see a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
For me, that's my office.
Yeah.
That's what I call work.
That's an amazing
How brilliant.
office. Yeah.
How brilliant.
This is what I say about the podcast. Like, when this turns into a well-sponsored podcast, how great is this? I get to meet awesome people and hang out with my son, best producer in podcasting.
Oh, I love getting to hang out with Eric.
Soon to come, Monkey Productions.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get you paid, buddy. Well, thank you so much for sharing and joining us. And
it's my pleasure.
Everyone go check out Shewolf Studios on Facebook and Instagram and buy lots of art. Buy lots of art.
So
Fill your house.
Thanks for the love.
All right, everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Eric, you want to go to outro? Hey, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. This podcast is over.